Tonight we have a young brother. He was 15 years old when he came into the prison system. And how many years you did now?
10.
He did 10 years, so he's 25 years old, and he's already spent 10 years of his life inside of the prison system.
22% of jail people in America are black males who are also high school dropouts. Many use these numbers as justification for the stereotype that black people are inherently dangerous or uncivilized, a belief that still permeates popular racial discourse in America. But what isn't popularly discussed is how the mass incarceration of black Americans can begin for many before they even reach the age of 16.
The image is disturbing. Teenagers, even children in handcuffs. Some say school arrests are getting out of hand in the United States. It's part of what educators are calling the school-to-prison pipeline, and it appears to disproportionately affect kids of color.
The police came into the office and stood in front of me where I was sitting, and they told me that I was under arrest.
Black people make up nearly 40% of America's incarcerated population, while accounting for only 13.4% of the total population. Over 80% of America's incarcerated population doesn't have a high school diploma, and as mentioned before, a large majority of incarcerated Americans are black. The data shows something that can't be ignored. The foundations for this epidemic can be traced back to American school systems. In order to understand how a school system can set up its black students to face incarceration later in life, let's first take a look at the link between the over-disciplining of black students and high dropout rates. The cycle of using exclusionary punishments against black students can be identified as what researchers have dubbed the push-out cycle. Exclusionary punishments are punishments like suspensions lasting longer than a week, expulsions, or juvenile incarceration. They're basically any punishment that's systemically employed to prevent a student from accessing the community and academic resources gained from being physically present in school. The cycle may begin as early as elementary school, where black students begin to be labeled as troublemakers by school staff. Once middle school and high school start, they begin to be exposed to disciplinary methods like school resource officers and zero-tolerance policies. This is especially true if they attend majority, minority, and/or low-income schools. A large part of the problem is that these school strategies are proven to disproportionately target black students, leading to higher amounts of these students facing severe and exclusionary disciplinary policies for relatively minor offenses, while white students are able to evade this. Severe punishment leads to disillusionment with school and authority, as well as poor academic performance. It's important to note that the troublemaker qualities schools use to identify problem students with are usually based off of perceived factors like a student's general demeanor in a school setting and how well they're performing in the classroom. This means that once a black student faces severe punishment, any natural, negative emotional responses they have to it begin to be perceived by authority figures as troublemaker qualities, leading to continual punishment. Continual punishments equal increasingly severe punishments, and when students face these severe punishments, they are more likely to enter the juvenile court system. In the court system, judges are more likely to uphold a school-sanctioned punishment, and courts have also been found to judge black juveniles based on the same troublemaker qualities that landed them there. As a result, a black student will usually face punishment in court. Just like with school, it only takes one indictment in a juvenile court to lead to more frequent and harsh punishment in court for later disciplinary offenses. Once a student reaches the stage of consistently receiving severe punishments, especially when those punishments involve the law in some way, they have effectively entered what is known as the school-to-prison pipeline. The school-to-prison pipeline is a sociological diagram which explains that overly disciplined students tend to face incarceration at least once in their life.
Black students get expelled 3 times more than their white classmates. In fact, expelled and suspended students are more likely to get held back a grade, end up in juvie, or just drop out altogether. And dropping out of high school makes you 3 times more likely to get arrested.
So how can the systemic funneling of black students into the court systems be stopped? Because poor black students are more likely to be targets of the push-out cycle, when they reach the court system, they're unable to hire a private lawyer and instead given a court-issued public defender. Since court involvement is usually the point at which a black student faces the most severe punishments, the quality of legal counsel they receive is pivotal in the result of their trial. With this in mind, I'm proposing the government-funded training and allocation of specialized court-issued legal counseling to black defendants as a viable strategy to reduce the high amount of black students facing severe over-punishment. This would, in turn, reduce the percentage of those students who later face incarceration as adults. This specialized public defense would come from a background which reconciles knowledge of systemic racial bias in American society with knowledge of American law. In the U.S., the landmark Supreme Court case Gideon v. Wainwright established that any defendant who can't afford a lawyer must be provided one by the courts. The problem with public defense, however, is that for one, it's been proven to be less effective than private legal counsel, so those who require it usually receive a lower quality of representation than those with private lawyers. But most importantly, in the case of their black clientele, the problem is that the idea of court-issued lawyers was not created with any sort of anti-racist approach to be included in their strategies. It was created simply to protect the rights of the innocent. The concept of innocence, however, is left up to the discretion of the court, a system which has historically held bias against Black people in its rulings. Black students whose disciplinary record has landed them in court are most likely distrusting of authority as a result of consistent punishment. That, coupled with the impersonal and generalized nature of court-issued legal counsel, can cause a sense of distrust or unease between the student and their lawyer. However, Black clients tend to respond positively to lawyers they can relate to, so it's feasible to predict that a lawyer who can demonstrate to their client that they understand their experiences and the bias they face may be able to provide solace in the harsh nature of the court system. When the student is able to trust and work with their lawyer, not only can the chances of an innocent student evading unjust charges improve, but they're also provided a positive experience with authority. As a result, the student's relationship with school may improve, reducing the possibility that they continue to face punishment in the court system and increasing their chances of receiving a high school diploma, ultimately reducing the probability of them facing incarceration in the future.